You're listening to A.C.E Podcast Nation, the hottest new podcast network and YouTube channel in the UK, featuring original series, top guests, expert analysts, and more. Check out facebook.com/AceCast Nation for news on latest guests and shows. Watch every show in full at youtube.com/ACE Podcast Nation.
Hello, this is Aaron the King Khalid, future Cage Warriors welterweight champion. If you're into podcasts that talk about MMA and general MMA chit-chat, then A.C.E Podcast Nation is the one for you. Go on to YouTube, like and subscribe, and every Wednesday they do a Danny Batten Fight Talk Show, which breaks down the cards previously to that week and future matchups following that fight show. So yeah, it's a great podcast. Like I said, like, subscribe and give it a listen.
Champion, welcome, Danny Batten. Number one. You win.
Hey guys, I'm Sai and welcome to A.C.E Podcast Nation, the home of the Danny Batten Fight Show. This is episode number 60 and we'll be talking last night's UFC, including Conor McGregor versus Dustin Poirier, among other things, as well as having a nice good chat to our guest. As usual, you can watch this show and all our other series on A.C.E Podcast Nation's YouTube, youtube.com/ACE Podcast Nation. Subscribe, click the bell, and you can get the audio versions at all the usual podcast and radio platforms. Just search A.C.E Podcast Nation, and there's about 350 different shows, series on all sorts of subjects. But with no further ado, first of all, former Cage Warriors champion, UK MMA legend, it is Mr. Danny Batten. How are you, mate? You okay?
Yes, I'm good. Yep. Still managing to train. That's the main thing. Just want to get some training in and managing to do that. So thank God.
Yeah, just be grateful you got that little semblance of sanity, mate, I think.
Yeah.
Because it feels like they could take it away at any second, I've got to be honest.
That's right, yeah.
To nothing.
You have to have so many things in place to be able to do any kind of training at the minute. You have to do it really transparently.
Yeah, it's a tough one. And we are delighted to be joined by our special guest this evening. He is Cage Warriors Flyweight champion, Jake Hadley. How goes it, my friend?
Yeah, man, I'm good, man. How's you two?
All right, man.
We're good. We are good.
On the back of some good fights last night, and we're looking forward to having a chat with you, mate. Really, because we've had a few guests over the months and episodes for all different promotions, and we're looking forward to just having a chat with you about your career and your newly acquired title, maybe what's going to be happening with you and stuff. But how are you anyway? Like generally, you're settling in to being a double champion.
Yeah, man, I'm good. Just normal. Just going to the gym. Twice a day, 6 days a week. So everything's just, it's just normal for me at the minute. So yeah, I'm all good.
Do you reckon are you going to be fighting on the Cage Warriors trilogy in March?
I don't know at the moment. It's obviously a struggle for me to get an opponent, as in everyone in Europe who's at the top, I've either beat them or beat the guy that beat them. You know what I mean? So it's kind of like they haven't really got anyone for me really who they could put in with me, and actually sell the fight, because anyone that put in with me at the minute, I think would be a terrible underdog. You know what I mean? It'd be an hard fight to sell. You know what I'm trying to say? So
Yeah, I suppose.
You know, there's no one on a win streak, you know, apart from guys I've beat. Have gone back on a win streak now. And yeah, there's not a lot for me. They're gonna have to bring a foreigner in if I'm gonna fight. But I don't know. I don't know if I'm gonna be or at the moment.
So is that leaving you a bit frustrated, or if the case of a lesser opponent does come up, are you still going to take it, and how will that make you feel during your training? Are you still going to find you're motivated for that, or how would that affect you?
I don't know if they could find me. Obviously, if they come back with something stupid, I don't know, like a guy who's like, I don't know, for instance, 5-2 or something like that. Obviously, I just wouldn't take that fight. It just had nothing for me. But like, come back with a guy with a decent record or whatever, and he's got some sort of pedigree behind him, then obviously we'll take the fight. But even then,
yeah,
it's hard to sell a fight really with anyone for me at the moment. Realistically, I should be in the UFC, I believe.
Yeah.
I'm with the top management in the world, really, Paradigm Sport Management. They are the top guys in the world, but due to this COVID, it's an hard situation at the moment. So maybe I might have to take a fight. But as far as motivation goes, I'm always in the gym, training twice a day, 6 days a week. I was even thinking to myself the other day, I'm basically in a camp. I might as well be in a camp. You know what I mean? Because I'm training that much. I'm thinking to myself, well, might as well be in a camp. You know what I mean? Getting ready to beat someone up because I'm training like I am. So, I don't mind fighting, but obviously it's got to be something with my time. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. And I've got a few questions because I've always wanted to talk to you. I've sort of seen you around on the circuit and what have you, and I saw you after you had your excellent, amazing performance win over Luke Shanks. After that fight, obviously there's a lot of build-up, wasn't there? Almost bordering on animosity between you, which made great for build-up. And I really got caught up in it. I was thinking this is just going to be absolutely fantastic. But it was like you were stamping on a fag. You really put the flame out, and if anyone allows someone like Luke to get active with his striking and with his cardio, he could be an absolute nightmare. But you really shut him down. Was this something was a game plan of yours, or was it something that you shot in and it felt right and you felt like, okay, that's just going to be my go-to? What was the whole idea, and do you feel that it's put the animosity to bed now that you've got the victory?
As far as animosity with Luke, really, I had no animosity towards him, really. I just spoke my opinion of the guy, my opinion was of him and his skill set and the way he fought, his thought processes, because I thought, his thought process, he was coming off a bit dumb, he was moving a bit dumb. I felt like he was dumb, so when I was saying that, that's because of my opinion of him and the things he said. And the stuff he did in the lead up before the fight. Obviously, we had this situation in the lift, and he's going on mad in the lift, wanting to get into fights and stuff. And I can see him thinking, going to hit me and stuff. So that was just my opinion of him, and my opinion of his skills, which I said in interviews, kind of was how the fight went. Really, I've got too much fight IQ for that guy. I got too much fight brain for him. I feel like I'm all rounded, and I'm a clever fighter. I don't take risks, and I'm technically better than him in every aspect of the game. Obviously, I felt like his game plan was to get me down to the ground and hold me down, and try use his strength and his power because he's big for the weight and he cuts a lot of weight. So that's what I felt like his game plan was, to try to take me down and lie on me. He got wild and the takedowns was there, so I took it, because I'm a smart fighter. I ain't gonna get into no pub brawl with no one, you know what I mean? Coming.
Because obviously I trained with Luke a lot in his early part of his career, so I know what he's like as a character, and he is someone that he would fight someone on the street if it comes. He's got that mentality, but you do talk about fight IQ, and something that I think let Luke down in trying to make that fight look closer. And was the fact that I think he got so invested emotionally, and it's like he wanted to run over and expected you to just throw down as he threw down. But of course, you still saw it as the sport of MMA, which I think is what let Luke down a little bit. You're in there not because it's an actual fight, but because you're doing a sport, and with a sport you've got to have strategy and planning, and you've got to take the easiest and the safest route to get your victory. Do you feel that he got so invested in it with his emotions that that's partly what let him down and allowed you to just keep nailing takedown? Because it's not like you had to work for the takedown; you're hitting them pretty damn clean.
Yeah, well, I feel like as well, like he kind of like ran out of options. Like after the like the first or maybe the second round, maybe after either the first or the second round, I feel like he'd ran out of options by then. Like as in, you know, he caught me with one shot and then he come running in. I think you know he thought he hurt me or something and tried to finish me, so the takedown was there. But then after that, obviously. Once he started losing, then he ran out of options because he felt obviously he got me down at one point, but you know, after feeling him on top of me, I knew he'd never have a chance of being able to keep me on my back. So it was just easy work from there of me being able to sweep him and put him back on his back. So, in my opinion, I feel like he ran out of options. Like he had no other option but to run at me. Because even if he come in there and tried to strike me properly, tried to technical strike me, he would have got banged out, in my opinion, yeah. On a technical striking standpoint, he would have got beat. In my opinion, the way he needed to win the fight really was to fight like that, to hope I get in the pocket with him and exchange with him and get caught. Because on a technical standpoint, he's not on my level on a technical standpoint. That's just how it is. But obviously, if you get into some sort of brawl, anyone can get caught in it. Anyone can get catched. If I went down the road, I had a street fight with a random dude and just stood in the pocket with him, he could catch me. You know what I mean? So
and when this was done, and you had your hands lifted, and obviously you knew you'd won it. I think we all knew that it was a really convincing win. You know, was there anything said? Did he congratulate you? You know, do you feel that he was quite honourable in his defeat, or was there still an attitude going on between you where something further down the line could perhaps erupt again? Would you feel that it was left on good terms in the end?
Yeah, well, I feel like obviously, you know, he congratulated me. I said, but you know, good fight to him. He's obviously, I've been in the cage room. I know he's a tough lad. You know what I mean? He has no quit in him. That's one thing you can say about Luke. Yeah, he's got no quit in him. He's got not one bit of quit in him. You know what I mean? He's a fighter through and through. You know, and you got to respect that. You know what I mean? But there's more to fighting than being tough and having heart.
Absolutely, I totally agree with that. I've had this sort of like I've been at loggerheads in the past with students that think that toughness and durability is something to behold, and it is, but it's only one part of the equation that keeps you in the fight to be relevant. But it don't win you fights. You've got to be smart, and you talk about that a lot. And you know that's really impressive with your young years. You know you obviously carry a mature head on young shoulders, and you know I think you're going to go far, and I absolutely think you're knocking on the door for UFC, and I really think that's truly your only option, because you're exactly right in what you say with your career. I look back at some of the people you've beaten who there's left for you to fight, and there's no really excitable option for you. So yeah, definitely UFC. And if UFC does come about, have you got any ideas on what kind of opponent you would like to be having your introduction to UFC in? Is there anyone you got your eye on and you'd be like, yeah, I'd like to fight that guy, I'll be able to showcase my skills well?
Well, to be fair, I don't mind fighting anyone, as in like they can give me a top 10, top 15 guy straight away. To be honest with you, I feel like I could beat all these guys straight away. You know, but I ain't really too fussed with who they give me, to be honest. You know, because I'm a Cage Warriors and an EFC champion, I feel like maybe they'd throw me to the deep end straight away because I'm a two promotional champ. But I'm okay, and I feel like, you know, these guys. I beat Shanks, I've beat this guy, I beat that guy, but all these guys I've been beating, the last four opponents I've beat, they're all UFC level opponents. You know what I mean? Like for instance, if me and Shanks was in America now, we'd be in the UFC. You know what I mean? We wouldn't have that. We wouldn't
Agreed.
have had to fight. You know, it's kind of like a bad thing in a way that Shanks and Hack and all these other lads who I fought have had to fight because I've literally put them off the UFC now for a couple of years. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
But we all could have been in the UFC if we was in America. You know what I mean? Because what they do is, I feel like they pick up the guys what are local to the show, local to the Vegas show or whatever. They pick them up a bit quicker than they do the Europeans. You know what I mean? Yeah. So, I feel like all these guys I've been beating would be in the UFC and be doing well in the UFC. Hack's fought that Zulu Gas or whatever his name is, who fought on UFC last night. The decision to Amir Albazi, but Hack lost a razor close. I thought he won it in that guy's backyard, split decision. You know what I mean?
Right.
So that just shows you that these guys are UFC level, UFC caliber guys.
Yeah. I think we've touched on that. We've said that, haven't we, Si, about Cage Warriors? I think anyone that's in contention for titles and title holders who've fought for the title previously on Cage Warriors, they all are absolutely relevant to be in UFC. You're absolute world class. But you had your experience out in South Africa, didn't you? And I've been out to that promotion 2 or 3 times with Fraser Opie back a good few years ago now. What did you make of that promotion and the level of fighters out there? Because that's sort of like their own little UFC that they have out there. It's quite big, isn't it, out there? But we don't see much of it on the world stage regards its advertisement and what have you. It doesn't have a lot of attention. But how did you feel it was out there, level-wise and experience?
Like the EFC, like, I don't know what you call it, like, do they call it production or something like that, as in like the weighing and how the shows ran and the countdown show, and it's proper. It's like UFC. And
that's how I was impressed with how they run it out there. I was quite impressed with it.
It's like really big as well, like as in like everyone knows who you are in the street when you walk the streets. It was a bit hostile for me because I was fighting Zulu, but it's really big out there, and their fighters are good as well, man. Like Zulu Boy, in my opinion, Zulu Boy was in Cage Warriors. He'd bang all these guys out, first round knockout, no doubt in my mind. Just because Shanks went 5, just because I've beat Zulu Boy, and Shanks went 5 rounds with me, don't mean Zulu wouldn't knock him out in the first round. I think Zulu would knock him out in the first round. He's just got that. If Shanks ran at him like he tried to run at me, he'd bang him, he'd knock him out easy. Yeah. I think Zulu's a tough guy. I mean, that guy should have been in the UFC as well. Yeah. Because it costs so much to fly him over from Africa and stuff. But that fight against Zulu Boy has put me to where I am today. It given me so much experience fighting him. Yeah. It's got so much fight IQ that guy has. The tricks he was doing to me in the cage, like even a funny thing, like he was poking me in the eye and stuff, hiding it, poking me in the eye. I thought, oh man, that's really good. That is, that's what I was thinking in the fight. Sneaky bastard, you know what I mean? Poking me in the eye and that. But I thought, I learned a lot from fighting him, and he's definitely a top guy. And EFC is a top show, but
it is, yeah. Is that not an option? Sorry, go on, sir.
How did you come to fight on the EFC, like, and go to South Africa, like, obviously, pretty much other side of the world? Like, how did you, guy from the UK, come to end up going to fight over there?
So what it is I've had a few teammates fight on there before. I've had Yannick Bahati. He was the EFC middleweight champion. He also went on to become BAMA middleweight champion as well. I've had Joe Cummins, who was my teammate at the time as well. He became EFC lightweight champion. So I had a few guys from my gym in Birmingham fight on the EFC. And what my problem was when I was like coming up is I couldn't get a fight in the UK. I was struggling real bad to get opponents, to get fights. You know what I mean? I was getting pull out after pull out after pull out. I had pull outs my whole entire amateur career, and I was just realistically, I was only 3-0, coming off a late notice win against Reece Street. You know what I mean? Like, and I went from being 3-0 to jumping in a world title fight with a guy who's had 15 pro fights, who was on the Ultimate Fighter. You know, and travelled the other side of the world to fight him because I couldn't get fights. That was the main reason. I was forced into fighting these top guys straight away because I couldn't get fights. You know what I mean? But obviously, I knew I could beat him. I know that. I was, you know, I know my skill level and stuff. But that's how I got to the EFCs. Basically, I couldn't get fights in the UK. I couldn't even get on Cage Warriors. I couldn't even get on there for a fight. Couldn't get nowhere. So I had to go EFC. And
and is that not an option for you? Like to perhaps go if you're a bit frustrated and it takes some time for you to get a worthy opponent to defend your Cage Warriors title, is possibly going out there to defend your title there? Is that something you consider?
What it was with EFC is I fought and I won the belt on EFC, and then they was getting contenders ready for me and this and that, and then unfortunately they come into money problems, money troubles, and then they put me on the sidelines for a while, so I fought on Bellator, and then they still couldn't afford to pay me to fly out and fight and this and that.
Right.
So, you know, I spoke with them and they decided to let me go. And
okay, I didn't know this.
And obviously now I've signed an exclusively with Cage Warriors, so I will not be fighting on Bellator or EFC. And I only can fight on Cage Warriors or obviously the UFC.
Yeah, but that's quite impressive when you think you're 7-0, which is impressive in its own right. But the caliber of guys you fought and the caliber of shows. I mean, not many people could say they fought on EFC and Cage Warriors and Bellator. Yeah. I mean, that's just nuts. So, you know, you really are packing in some serious experience into a very young career. Do you think that's sort of like, you know, gone in your favour in terms of feeling ready to face anyone at any level?
Yeah, well, I know I can fight anyone at any level. You know, through my sparring and through my fighting. You know, I fought top guys. I mean, Zulu EFC champ, Blaine O'Driscoll was a world champ, fought him on Bellator. Saj Hack was a legend of the UK Flyweight MMA. We know he's got wins over Ronnie Mann, Sam Creasy, and then Shanks. So obviously, I know what level I'm at. I know, you know, and it's given me valuable experience. You know what I mean? Like, when fights just go your own way, you don't always gain a lot from it. You know what I mean? Like, for instance, you know, I had a good amateur career and I had a good early pro career, but no one ever really pushed me. You know what I mean? And then when I fought Zulu Boy, he pushed me. When I fought Blaine, he pushed me. So it gives you valuable experience. I've been in situations. I've been down on a fight. I've been up on a fight. You know, I know not to make silly mistakes or go for silly stuff, which I would do when I was a young kid. You know what I mean? I'd go for something mad. Oh, a flying triangles here. Let me just jump this. When you fight these higher level guys, you can't be making a single mistake because they take advantage of the single mistake you make.
100%.
So, yeah, that's what I've learned from fighting these top guys is, you know, the fight IQ and stuff like that.
We had a question sent in from Gaz, which I'm going to get to in just a second. But I just wanted to circle back to something when we were talking about the UFC, like the rankings, and like we've talked about before, Dan, the outside of maybe the top sort of 3 or 4 in the UFC flyweight division, I do feel like below sort of Askarov and down, I feel like any of the top Cage Warriors flyweights could slot in there comfortably. And I just really wondered, Jake, if the UFC was to offer you the opportunity to fight one of like the top 3 guys, would you take that straight out of the bat, or would you prefer to fight someone else first before going into that higher level?
I got no problem fighting any of these guys. I mean, I've watched them. I've watched them all, and all of them's got holes in the game, and all of them make mistakes, which I feel like I could capitalize on. So, you know, I feel and I know I'm ready for this level. I feel like if they put me in the UFC now, just say if I fought in the UFC in March, I could have the belt by the following March.
Yeah.
In my opinion. You know, they've had some good fights. I know Figueiredo and Moreno had a good, entertaining fight. You know, but there's, you know, things I saw in that fight which I was like, oh, I'd take advantage of this. I can take advantage of that. You know, obviously, it sounds like, you know, I ain't even had my first fight in the UFC yet, and I'm already saying that I could beat the champion. But I know these things. You know what I mean? Like I was an amateur. Looking up to Zulu Boy, because Zulu Boy has been a champion for about 6-7 years. Yeah, I was looking at Zulu Boy before I even had my first amateur fight, and I was saying I can beat this guy, and I beat him. You know what I mean? I already knew. You know what I mean? And I know I could beat Figueiredo and these guys, but that's me saying about myself now. Imagine when I do fight him, I feel like, you know, I'll smash him when I do fight him. I feel like I could beat him now. So imagine in a year, 2 years when I do go there. You know, I think they'll probably try to build me up, really, the UFC, because I'm young, you know, I'm 24. You know, it's not like I'm, you know, 38, 39 years old. They need to get, you know, just using me for the prospects or something. I feel like they'd get me in and build me up. They'd put me on a multi-fight deal, build me up. You know what I mean? That's how I think they'd treat me. But, you know, I ain't too fussed.
It's fascinating, like listening to you, because you clearly, you know, you it's not just a confidence in your own ability. Like, you believe that you could beat these guys, and obviously Figueiredo's been on a tear, like you mentioned. But the other thing I wanted to circle back on, just very quickly, was you said about like you've mentioned a couple of times now, just struggling to get fights because people pull out and stuff. And we've had that conversation again, Dan, with Jack Shaw, is that people always keep pulling out of his fights because, in my opinion, they don't particularly want to fight him. And I feel like maybe that you're having a similar issue, or you certainly were before you went out to the EFC, in that people, because they know that you're this like young fighter with an all-round game, and it's clear you've got an all-round game. I mean, even if someone hasn't seen your fights, if you go and have a look at like your list of victories and the various ways you've won, it's clear that you've got a pretty all-round game, because it's not just all knockouts or all submissions. You've got all sorts. You've won by decision, you've won by knockout, you've won by TKO, you've won by rear naked choke. Like, there's all sorts of victories in there. Like, how does a fighter like yourself, or like Jack Shaw, or I'm sure there's a couple of others, have to deal with that frustration of having multiple pullouts all the time, where people seemingly don't want to fight you?
Yeah, I mean, it was really frustrating at one stage of my career. It's just like constantly getting pullouts. I remember like being fighting at one stage, and I had multiple times guys pull out the day of or the day before the fight, multiple occasions, multiple times. I had so many pullouts, it was unreal. That's why one of the reasons why I had to fight Reece Street at one stage was because I had a pullout. And, you know, it was like 6 days before the fight, and I'm like, fucking, I need to fight. I need the money. I need the experience. I need to fight. You know what I mean? So I had to fight. You know, even though I didn't want to fight him, because obviously he was a journeyman at the time. But I've had that many pullouts before in my career. It was frustrating, but I've got nothing else in my life other than training and fighting. So it's not like it'd frustrate me and then I'll slack off. It would just frustrate me and then I'll be like, oh, fuck. You know, a bit sad for a day, and then, you know, but I'd still be in the gym, you know what I mean? So I'm just like a gym rat. I'm in the gym all the time, you know what I mean? So, you know, it'd frustrate me, but I just kept training and kept working hard. It's never, affected my work effort or something like that. Having to do a camp like 9 weeks, 10 weeks, and then someone pulling out last minute. I still trained just as hard the next camp, even though in the back of my head I was like, "But this guy will probably pull it," and then they did. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I'd still train just as hard. You know what I mean? All the time.
Yeah, because you're so young, you can be patient. You know, if I can give you any advice, is you have got that on your side, and it's such a good thing that you're choosing to still train as if you're in camp all the time, because I think a good thing to give you confidence that good things will come is for you to just know that you're improving, each week, each month, and that you're just going to be a even more devastating, even more dominant Jake Hadley when you next get in there. So, I just say sit tight, things will come, time will make things fall in place, and try not to be too frustrated about it. It will come your way. But I have no doubt in my mind that we're going to be seeing you in UFC quite possibly this year, and I'll be really excited to do so. I'll be following your career quite closely. Now I've got to finally talk to you. I wasn't too sure whether to talk to you. I know you was under a lot of pressure, and then you had the win. And so I remember eating breakfast and I saw you across the table, but you had people coming over to you. So I decided just to leave it. And, that's why I've been asking you so many questions. There were so many things I wanted to ask you anyway, but I thought, hey, we'll save it for a podcast. So, forgive me, Si, because I kind of hijacked it a little bit and been asking a load of questions. But I really was looking forward to getting you on. And I'm always amazed when we get these youngsters, you guys are under 25 years of age. And when I think back when I was that age, I'd barely grown out of playing with dinky toys and stuff like that. So, but you're also mature for your years, and that impressed me. Not only does your level impress me, but it's the way you think. And you're going to go far without a doubt. And you've gained a true fan in me.
This fighting is all I've known all my entire life. My family are fighters. My dad was an amateur boxer. My granddad was a pro boxer. So fighting's just in my blood. It's in my DNA. I grew up around watching fighting and looking up to my dad and listening to my dad and this and that. And because my dad, he was never no great fighter himself, as in like competitively, but he knows a lot about the fight game, and he knows the best ways. You know what I mean? As in, he's always advised me to be the smart fighter and stuff like that.
Absolutely.
And advised me on stuff like this. So, it has got to do with my mindset, but it's also got to do with my family's mindset, my coach's mindset. You look at most of the guys in Birmingham. I mean, you look at Leon Edwards, for instance. He's a smart fighter, technical, smart fighter. You don't make no. He's got a very, very high fight IQ. Rocky has. So I've been around these guys. And I've been around them since I was a kid, you know what I mean? So, obviously it rubs off on me, so that's like my mindset.
Yeah, Jake, we were talking just when we were waiting for Danny, because Danny's always late. And we were talking about the I was saying to you how excited I am for the next sort of 5 years to see all the guys from Britain going into the UFC, because it does feel like there's this wave of European talent, if you want to call it, but British talent who are kind of 25, 26 and down, who have just got an unbelievable all-round game, whether it's yourself or it's Mason Jones or Jack Shaw or Leon Edwards. There's a wave of guys who you look at it on paper and you just think all of those names which I've just mentioned, and there's loads of others. You've got Modestus, Danny. You've got, there's guys who are on Cage Warriors now who maybe with a bit of time could end up over there as well. And I look at it and I just think any number of them could end up being UFC champions. And I find it really exciting because, as you mentioned, maybe a lot of those guys would have already been on the UFC earlier if they were in America. So, what do you think, Jake, about the influx of British talent which we've got coming up? And is there?
Well, I think there was always this thought process of you have to go to America to be, UFC champion or to be a contender in the UFC. I feel like my friend and my teammate Leon Edwards, has proven that you don't have to go abroad to be a top level fighter, because that was always the process. You know, all the guys went abroad. Michael Bisping, you know, Dan Hardy, all of them went abroad. All the top UK guys of the past, and even some top UK guys who are in the UFC now, like Danny Roberts, he goes abroad, doesn't he? You know, etc., etc. But Leon Edwards, he's always done all his training in Birmingham. You know what I mean? Okay, he's gone out and done a couple of weeks here in America, you know, in between camps or this and that. But realistically, 95% of his training has been here in Birmingham. He has proven that you can trust in what you've got at home, and you can become a top fighter from where your city in the UK. And now a lot of top guys now are following this process. You know, obviously Mason Jones, he's just training out of Wales, and Jack Shaw's just training out of you know, his gym in Wales. Nathaniel Wood just training out of his gym in London. But you know, Rocky was the start of that. You know, the start of that. Guys just training at home in the city. I feel like we've got everything here in the UK, really. You know, we've got some of the top striking coaches out there. We've got some high level wrestling coaches if you go out and look for them. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Obviously, I'm quite blessed. I've got a real top wrestling coach here in Birmingham, Canby. So I'm quite lucky, really. You know, jiu-jitsu wise, we've got some top guys. So we've all got top, you know, things around the area in the UK. You know what I'm saying? So.
Yeah, there's no massive secrets out there, is there, anymore, with learning techniques in any of the disciplines? I think that's, you know, something that we've got to be realistic with. There ain't no more secrets. And don't get me wrong, there's some fantastic training camps in America, which is probably leading people into temptation, along with some good weather, particularly if you're going Florida way, which, you know, one of my former students, Linton Vassell, has gone that way. I think the temptation of the weather and you know, living the dream, I totally get it. But I think back along, nearly all these successful UK fighters were going stateside for their training and predominantly, you know, living best part of their training lives and fighting careers, regards UFCs out there in America. But yeah, I'm absolutely agreeing with you that you don't have to do that. That is not the only recipe for success. We have got some great coaches here, and I just think you're going to see more UK fighters not only succeeding just by winning fights, but possibly taking titles too on the UFC. And Jack Hadley, well, I think you're going to be the one as well to make your mark, and you'll be lifting another belt. Let's just hope so.
Man, definitely.
Yeah.
I mean, even sparring wise here in the UK, I mean, I have a lot of top guys come over and spar. Obviously, you know yourself, I have, you know, the Creasy brothers, Sam Creasy and Tom Creasy. I have guys come from all over to come down and spar. So, you know, we've even got like a top mat. Like if we took our guys to Alpha Male or something, I bet we'd bang all of them. You know what I mean? You know, we have some good sparring mat, and we've got, you know, good coaches here in the UK, especially here in Birmingham. So, you know, top level stuff.
Yeah. On that front, Jack, you know, you're always welcome down at our gym. You know, we're very, very open gym. If you're talking with Sam, he'll probably tell you that our attitude is really relaxed. We have fighters come from all over, and we just do a bit of technique together, and then everyone spars. You know, I always make sure that it's done on a friendly and a realistic level, sort of thing. You're always welcome down at our gym. It's a fantastic facility. And if you ever want to switch up your training, we have some really good lighter weight guys that, you know, would be beneficial for your training. Regards just getting an adaptive change of sparring partners. I'll make sure you're made very, very welcome.
Yeah, man. Thanks for that. I really appreciate that. And you know, if any of your lads ever want to come down Birmingham, Fearless MMA, they're welcome, no problem.
That'd be great.
Sparring or anything like that. I know, like, is it Paul? I've spoke to him a few times. Is it Paul from your gym? PST.
Raymond Paul. You want about Raymond Paul? Yeah, Raymond Paul. Yeah.
I've spoke to him a few times about training and this and that. So, you know, Sam's told me, like, you know, about some of your lads down there, and they want to come and train and spar, but they was waiting till after the fight. You know what I mean? After I fought Shanks, because obviously, you know, they don't want no conflict. Me thinking he's conflicted or something like that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So Yeah, but any of you guys are welcome anytime down the gym, no problem.
Yeah, sure, absolutely. Yeah, I've always been, very much into allowing students to train other places. We've discussed this numerous times on the podcast. I've never been an insecure coach where I'm worried someone's going to go somewhere else and think, oh, it's better than here or anything like that. I'm in it for these young lads and young girls to do whatever it takes to have the best experience and get as far as they can. And to do that realistically, you've got to experience other gyms as well and mix up your training and sparring partners.
Exactly, of sparring, of coaches, etc.
Yeah, now we've broke the ice with each other. There's no doubt that we're getting communication with each other and we'll send some people up your way. And like I say, you and whoever you want to bring, you're more than welcome down at ours. It'd be great to produce a good rapport between us.
Yeah, man. Thanks for that, man. Cheers, man.
That's right.
Just before we have a little chat about last night's UFC, which was interesting to say the least, we had a couple of questions sent in for you, Jake. The first one was, Gaz said, if you could fight any flyweight in history, who would it be?
Well, it's got to be Mighty Mouse, in it, because obviously he's the greatest of all time. So it's got to be Mighty Mouse. He's the hardest guy in the division, and he really, let's be real, he can do everything, can't he? He can strike, he can wrestle, he can do jiu-jitsu, bottom, top. He's got everything, fight IQ. He's got everything, but he's the greatest of all time in the flyweights, isn't he? So, that'd be the guy. If I could fight anyone, it would be him, wouldn't it?
Yeah. Have you heard his interviews when he talks? His techniques and transitions are so fast and responsive. He talks the same. It's just like his brain's working super fast and his mouth tries to keep up. You can tell he's a super intelligent guy. He's really interesting to listen to.
Isn't it crazy though that the UFC did nothing with that division? Like they barely promoted it. They kind of just left it.
Yeah,
until
they did.
Until he left.
I know, that's the crazy thing.
He left. They started booking like all these guys. They started promoting guys, and suddenly you had like 2 or 3 guys.
Yeah, and the coolness is he was probably pound for pound the best fighter in UFC as well at the time.
100%. It's bizarre, but I suppose there we go. JD says, apart from you, Jake, who do you think has got the best chance of becoming a UFC champion? The British fighters.
Out of like all weight classes, yeah. I'd say other than me, Leon Edwards.
Yeah, we talked about this. We think he's been massively disrespected by the
absolutely.
UFC. Yeah, 100%.
To be honest.
Yeah, because he never even got one fight in, did he, last year in the end? And that's so sad because people overlook the amazing results that he's had in UFC. Yeah. But I absolutely think so as well. I think right now, he's someone that really could be lifting that belt. If he just gets the opportunity, it just frustrates me. I think there's a lot of fighters worried about fighting him, to be honest.
Yeah, I mean, I should imagine when he wins this one, hopefully he'll get the title shot then. I hope so anyway, because he deserves it, you know what I mean?
Absolutely he does, yeah.
He does, yeah, and what I don't like about it is the media in the American sort of sector of the MMA media, they always kind of turn around on him as if he's the one who's kind of refusing to fight or take fights, and it's very clear that he's really been quite desperate to fight, and I find it frustrating as a fan because I feel like he should have had a title shot already, let alone
he served these Jews. He served these Jews in there. What do they want him to do? Fight people lower rank all the time? I don't get it with him. It's just not fair on the lad. He should be.
This fight here is like, when he beats this guy, it's going to be, this guy was never any good, or blah, blah, blah. People are going to go on and bring that one in there. So, I want people to remember how much they thought this Hamzat was the real deal. You know what I mean? I want people to remember that when Rocky smashes him, I hope Rocky gets his full credit for it, what he deserves. You know what I mean? Because, they're going on like he's this great great guy, this great fighter, and UFC really want to push this fight. They obviously do because it's been cancelled
Yeah,
multiple
they
times.
love him, don't they?
Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
Yeah,
you know,
Chimaev, they love him.
so when he beats him, I hope he gets his credit what he's due for that. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And not everyone go back on it and say, "Oh, he was never no good. He was,
Yeah.
just made and all this."
Yeah. Do you think sometimes Dana White's a little bit guilty of favouring certain fighters and allowing them to have easier opportunities for the best routes to the title attempt? Because to me, sometimes I get that sense that he just don't like some people and don't seem to give them the
there's been a
exposure
couple
they
over the
deserve.
years, haven't there?
Yeah, and I do sometimes feel that although there's probably nothing said between Leon and Dana, I just feel like Dana's not done him the justice he deserves with the results that he's had. I mean, he's only had 2 losses, I believe, isn't it, in UFC? And one of them against Usman. I mean, and that was earlier on in his career. I think he could take the likes of him on and win now. He's gained in experience since then.
He gave Usman a good fight. If you go rewatch that fight, he
It was a real
gave
good
Usman
fight.
a good fight, and he was young in his career then as well. You know what I mean? He's very experienced now on an 8-fight win streak since that fight. So, yeah, man, I think he's got the potential to win the belt. Definitely, 100%.
Yeah.
He's all rounded. His fight IQ is very high. So, yeah, man.
I never understood why they never made that the Masvidal fight straight after, because they had words, didn't they? Was that after the Usman fight? I forget.
That was after Gunnar Nelson, but
That's it. Yeah.
Masvidal don't want nothing to do with Rocky. You don't want nothing to do. Like, people don't understand. Like, they're so like, I don't know how to explain it. Like, because he's so much in the limelight at the minute, they'll just listen to every shit he says all the time. But why do you think he don't want the fight? He don't want the fight because he knows it's not a hard fight for him. That's why he don't want the fight. Because you'd want to fight someone who you got into a street fight with, wouldn't you? You know what I mean? Come on. It's going to sell, and it's going to sell. That fight's going to sell. You don't want the fight because he knows it's an hard stylistic fight for him. You know what I mean? That's why he don't want it. So he wants to keep fighting. I love Diaz, but he wants to fight guys like Diaz. You know what I mean? Because they're an easier fight but you get a lot of credit for beating them, don't you? You know what I mean?
Yeah, I see what you mean. 100%. Right. I wanted to ask you guys about one of the strangest stories I have heard in a very long time, which happened this week in Fight Island. I think if anyone else was fighting other than Conor McGregor, it would have been much bigger news. Ottman Azitar was due to fight on UFC 257 versus Matt Frivola I think it was on the prelims. But Ottman is from Morocco. He's got a pretty good reputation in terms of his fighting career. He's an unbeaten lightweight, and basically, when you're in the bubble in the hotel, you're not allowed to leave, and you've got these bracelets, as you know, Dan, from going out
That's
there.
right. Yeah.
So what Ottman and his team did, they cut the bracelets, passed them out to some other guy. The guy came in, went into a hotel room, scaled 4 balconies across into Ottman's hotel room because they're not allowed to leave the room, gave him a bag, and then gave him his wristbands back. They taped them back on, and the guy then kind of tried to just walk out of reception, was chased by security and whatnot. Dana White has basically Ottman's been fired. Obviously the fight was off. Is crazy. Like
That's nuts.
a lot of the media who were out in the bubble were kind of saying, you should press charges. Why aren't you pressing charges? And Dana White basically said, look, he's been fired. He's lost his big opportunity. He was fighting on a Conor McGregor card. He's lost that opportunity. But like when you kind of when you think about how secure the bubble is and everything with COVID, and like how much effort and regulations have gone into putting on these events, and then you've got like literally the biggest MMA star in the world fighting, and then one of your fighters and his team does something so... It's crazy, man. It makes no sense to me whatsoever why someone would do it. I'd love to know what was so important, which was what was in that bag that they had to smuggle in. But like, what, Danny, as someone who's been out to the Fight Island recently, like, what do you make of that, mate? Because
I know it's super strict out there.
Mind, mate.
Yeah, it's super strict out there, but for good reason. You know, it's a secure bubble, and don't get me wrong, this bubble doesn't hem you in and make you feel suffocated by any means. You got your own private beach you can go to. There's a basketball court outside. The restaurants that you've got free reign to eat what you want. I mean, it's just, you're looked after so well there that really, yeah, it's shocking that he would go to those degrees, and it's got to be something very important in those bags that he was wanting and needing. But yeah, it's absolute craziness. Can you imagine this guy, if this guy was infected, that would have been the whole show called off. The whole show.
Yeah.
So yeah, not a good idea to do things like that, really not.
It is bizarre. What do you make of that, Jake? Like, as a fighter yourself, like, and you know, I felt really sorry for the guy he was supposed to be fighting, because obviously that fight was off. Luckily, they had someone else pull out, so they matched him with someone else. But like, as I don't know, it blows my mind. Obviously, like, I'm not a fighter, I'm not a trainer, I haven't been out in that sort of situation. But like, what do you make of that, Jake?
I think it's a bit stupid, isn't it, that he felt that he could get away with that on UFC. You know what I mean? It wouldn't be near as bad if it was fucking, I don't know, FCC in Baltimore, something like that. You know what I mean? But it's the UFC. You ain't gonna get away with anything like that. But like you said, I mean, you've got everything down there. You've got a basketball court and all this and all that. He would have been doomed if he would have been at the Cage Warriors one, the first trilogy, because he couldn't even go nowhere. I was in my room for 36 hours or something mad like I couldn't leave my room. You know, so he would have been doomed if he was there. So crazy.
Yeah, it is a crazy one. The guy who like did the climbing and the smuggling. Apparently, Dana White said after the show that the Abu Dhabi government have got his name and they're dealing with him. It's nothing to do with the UFC. And I was like,
he could be in big trouble.
He could be looking life in prison, mate. At best.
His fingers chopped off.
Yeah, gee, it could be anything, could it? Can you imagine? Jesus Christ. Probably like do you know what? He probably wanted something like, I don't know, like his lucky necklace or something like that.
Yeah, probably what it is.
Something superstitious, most likely.
Yeah, it's not a country you want to get caught breaking the law in.
No,
I get that sense.
Mate. Jesus, it's just madness, mate. So we're going to talk about the main event and the co-main event now of last night. Overall, I thought it was an enjoyable show. Let's start with the co-main event. Michael Chandler making his debut. Dan Hooker has been looking quite impressive of late, and he got pretty much smoked 2.5 minutes. Michael Chandler took him apart. About as good a debut as you want. What I did find interesting was the post-match comments of Dustin Poirier about a potential title fight versus Chandler, but we'll get to them in a minute. Danny, what did you make of the fight, though, Dan Hooker? I know you're a big fan of Chandler.
Well, I really like them both. I've got to say, I really do like what Dan Hooker's been doing in recent times. I know I said to you all along that he's going to prove to be awkward because he fights on the rim of the cage and he tries to make his range apparent. But I felt like he was backpedaling so far, so much, that there was no real counters available to him with regards to the hands. So all he was doing was kicking at the legs. And it did look like, this could create a pattern of frustration for Chandler if it carries on like this. But Chandler, being with the experience that he has, knows that when someone backpedals as much as he was doing, that you can't get caught with any really dangerous counter hands. You've got to have your feet planted for that. You've got to bed down your base to throw your shot. So because he was backpedaling, he started getting more and more confident to lean in his shots, which is not considered a good attacking maneuver for any decent striker. But when someone's footworking as much as that, which you can't get away with doing in a ring, by the way, which is why you would never see that in boxing. But because this is a cage and it's pretty big in there, you can dance around those outer fringes. But if you do it so much so, all the attacking guy has to do is start winging his shots and start leaning in and start throwing some overhands, which is some of the longest hand strikes that you can throw. And that just was working into perfect plan for someone like Chandler, because Chandler needs to make up, obviously, some reach and a height advantage. But when someone's backpedaling like that, you can just run forward and throw those overhands. And that's what he did. He snagged him, didn't he, with one and then two. And then the precision of his shots were great. I did worry momentarily, it looked like he was going to jump on a guillotine or something when he hooked onto his head and arm. And I was like, no, don't go to the ground now. Keep the momentum going. But he let go. He's a seasoned veteran now in the sport and carried on. Pounding his head and got the stoppage win. It was really impressive. He looked like he was really stalking, but he also looked very, very frustrated. I did wonder whether even throwing those overhands, would he ever be able to actually reach with any consequence to Hooker's chin? But yeah, he proved that he can do it, and he did do it, and looked very, very good in doing so.
Indeed. What did you make of this one, Jake? Did you enjoy it?
Yeah, well, going into the fight, I favoured Chandler. I thought that a 3-round fight suited more him. Like, over a 5-round fight, I felt like the fight could have went different. Even, like, maybe his approach to the fight would have been a bit different. Obviously he's, like, explosive, powerful, but he seems to fade later on in fights.
Yeah.
He fades. Hooker, he can, he's already proven, he's really fit over 5 rounds. I know Chandler's been 5 rounds, but he seems to be more of a, an early fighter, like a 3-round fighter suits him better. I predict. I did feel like Chandler was going to win, and he was going to win. If he was going to win, he was going to win like that. To be fair.
Yeah, I thought it was impressive. Obviously, the talk to Dana White in the post-match press conference was asking him, Chandler versus Poirier for the lightweight title. Dana White said yes. Obviously, Michael Chandler wants the lightweight title shot. Dustin Poirier said no. He said, I'm not. He said he won't do it, because he said, why should he's had to grind his way up through that lightweight division to get his opportunity, a title shot. Why should Michael Chandler come in, fight one guy, and then get his title shot? He seemed very adamant. Obviously, emotions are running high. You've just literally, 20 minutes after he's just had that fight, he's going to have dumped a load of adrenaline. Maybe he will think differently when the money's on the table and the title shot's on the table. But it was interesting because I kind of think everyone kind of assumed, that's what they're going to do. And Dustin Poirier said, no, that's not happening. But the problem he might have is if he says no, they may offer it to someone else. They may offer it to They may do Gaethje Chandler for the title, or they may do whoever, Conor. I don't know. They might not necessarily go, okay, Dustin, we'll match you with someone else for the title, and we'll put Chandler against someone else. Do you know what I mean? They might not take into consideration what Poirier wants necessarily. They should, but they might not. What do you think, Dan?
I think Poirier's done plenty enough to, to a point, pick and choose how he wants things to go right now. And I don't think that once things settle down, things are going to change with his opinion. And I think he's right with his opinion. I mean, you've got to remember, I'm a massive fan of Chandler. I love watching him over the years. But I just do think he should be having another 1 or 2 fights before he's considered for a title. I just think he's got to prove himself. It's just what you've got to do, isn't it? You've got to go in there and put a little bit of graft in, which is the whole point of the argument of what we were saying about Leon. Leon, he's done his dues. Get this guy bigger opportunities. I do think he's still got to, have another fight or 2, but not against Poirier. Poirier's done his bit in my mind. Although, as a fan, I'd love to see that fight.
Yeah, for sure. I obviously, assuming Khabib's not coming back, which seems to be what was said after the fights last night, it's going to be Poirier versus somebody, you'd think, for the lightweight title. It'll be interesting who. Do you think, Jake, that Chandler should get that shot against Poirier, or do you think it should go to someone else?
Well, I think maybe it would be okay to give him another fight against someone else. But saying all that, we did knock out the guy, in Dana Hooker, who took Poirier 5 rounds in a real close fight, where it was 1 round. it was a real close fight, weren't it? Really, it was that last round which made him sneak. He just about won the fight. So a guy who nearly killed you got knocked out by this guy in one round, and then you're saying that you don't, and also he also beat Eddie Alvarez, who nearly killed you as well. I know it was like a 50-50 fight, Chandler and Alvarez was as well, but like, he has paid his dues though, as in like he has fought top guys. Just because he ain't been in the UFC don't mean the guys ain't top guys. I mean, he's come in here and he's knocked out Dan Hooker, who obviously is one of the top guys in the UFC straight away. No problem. Made it look easy, innit? Obviously we know the fight could have went a different way if he maybe survived a round or two or whatever. But that guy, maybe give him another fight. I could understand give him another fight, give him maybe, Gaethje or Oliveira or someone like that, and then put him in the title shot. But to say you don't want to fight him and I'm not going to fight him because he had done this and he had done that, well, we knocked out the guy who took you 5 rounds, you know what I mean? Type of thing.
Yeah,
and he has beat top guys, isn't he?
Yeah, that's a real good point. Because he has fought some decent guys in Bellator, and of course the guys he has fought of late have given Poirier, a real good fight. So from that, there's logic to it, and it's not just the fact of you're just chucking him in there because he's won one fight. It's maybe who he's beaten of late. I would like to see Charles Oliveira versus either Poirier or Gaethje, though. I think that's the fight which I would really like to see. I like Charles Oliveira. I'd like to see him and Gaethje go at it. I think that could be good. And then, of course, we had the main event that it had a lot of hype behind it. I found this fight absolutely fascinating the way it went. I thought Conor looked pretty good in the first round, but he took some heavy leg kicks throughout the first round, and it was clear he didn't sit down in between rounds. It was clear there was something going on there, and that was the case because about 2.5 minutes into the second round, he got clipped. And as Conor then went to throw, I think it was an uppercut, his left leg gave way, and Poirier finished him with some big shots. Herb Dean waved it off. I think there's been, as there always is with Conor McGregor, there's been a lot of hyperbole afterwards, people saying Conor McGregor's finished, etc., etc. But my personal opinion is, look, it's fighting. Anyone can get caught at any time. I thought Dustin Poirier fought a very clever, intelligent fight. And me and Jake were talking just before the show about Conor's wide stance. And Dustin Poirier used the fact that Conor's got such a wide stance to set up those shots in the second round. Jake, we'll go to you first, mate. What did you make of the fight? What did you make of Conor McGregor's performance? And also, Dustin Poirier, do you think he was maybe a little bit disrespected before the fight in terms of everyone kind of just assumed it would go the way of the first fight?
Well, I honestly believed he was going to get knocked out again.
I did too.
I when I watch McGregor's fights, I've watched McGregor's fights in the lead up to this fight, and I watched Poirier's fights in the lead up to this fight, and when I was watching it for a skill basis, you look at McGregor's fight with Alvarez, how good he looks in there, as in he's in and he's out, he's hard to hit, even though he keeps his hands quite low, he's quite. He uses his movement as his defense type of thing. And then I look at Poirier and he's in the pocket, he's getting caught. Every fight's near enough a war. And I'm just, thinking as well, when McGregor lands his shot on Poirier, he's just going to put him out. He ain't going to take it like he can take some of these other guys' shots. But, I was shocked how Conor came into the fight, as in, he was he's always he's always got a wide stance. So I would say the leg kick is open to him. but like he looked like he was like really heavy on his leg, like leaning over, like more of like a boxing stance. Like he didn't really want to throw a kick. He threw kicks after he got hurt with kicks. You know what I mean? Then he started mixing in the kicks himself. But really, it looked like he just wanted a boxing match. He looked like he's been getting into the. He don't look like the way he looked when he knocked Poirier out in the first fight. You know, he don't look loose, and he didn't look loose, and he didn't look relaxed in there. You know what I mean? That's how I felt.
Yeah.
You know, the leg kick, obviously, the leg kick, the calf kicks was working. They're the same stance, southpaw. The calf kick, outside calf kick works well due to the stance. But Poirier was also working that in the first fight. If you watch the first fight, he kicked him a lot in the leg in the first fight. You know, and was hurting him a bit in the leg with the first fight. But I don't know, he didn't look himself in my. I don't know. He just didn't look himself. No. Once he was hurt and he was on the cage, you know, he does what McGregor does when he gets pressure put on him. You know, like when Diaz covered up and put pressure on him, he did the same thing, like just stay up against the cage, move his head, try to get out of the way. But, you know, obviously Poirier's got a bit more power than Diaz. He's just throwing it on him. But, yeah, I was shocked. I was shocked, really, that Poirier knocked him out, to be honest. I was shocked that he won. Couldn't believe it.
Yeah, I thought Conor McGregor looked as tense as I've ever seen him when they were doing the instructions. So, you know, like, if you remember back to the Jose Aldo fight, in the introductions, Conor, just his whole demeanour, he looked loose, he looked relaxed, he just looked like he was completely fine. And then they went over to Aldo, and he looked like he had the whole weight of the world on his shoulders, and he looked stressed, and he looked stiff and heavy and tense. And that's what I thought Conor looked like last night as they were doing the introductions. But I thought, maybe it's just me. But I agree completely with what you said. He was very heavy on his feet and kind of leaning forward in like a boxing thing. And I wonder whether the amount of boxing training he's done, obviously he fought Floyd Mayweather. He also told TalkSport after the fight that they pretty much have agreed a Manny Pacquiao fight. He doesn't know if it's still going to happen now, but that's clearly been like in the works. So I do wonder if his camps and his training have been very boxing heavy, because obviously we're so used to seeing him throw like those hook kicks, and especially early in fights, he'll throw like these like high kicks and hook kicks, which often create the distance and the space and the angles for him to hit his big left hands.
Well, that sets it up, doesn't it? Them kicks set up disguise the left hand, you know what I mean? But he weren't doing none of that stuff till it was too late. He was already compromised, you know what I mean? Like by the time he started doing that, his leg was already compromised, and it was too, you know, he was pretty much too far gone then, you know what I mean? He didn't fight like his normal self. I feel like that's right. He's got into that boxing too much. He's into the, you know, focusing on the boxing way too much, you know what I mean?
Well, Dan, what do you think, mate? Because I think we all picked McGregor to win beforehand, but we also said, you know, Poirier's no bum. Like he's a real good fighter who's been racking up the wins since the first fight. And also, I feel like this weight is, you know, it's much better for Poirier in terms of his abilities.
Yeah, I think the weight suited them both, to be honest. I know Conor McGregor cut a lot of weight to get down at featherweight, so I think the weight suited them both. I don't think that was any part of the equation of what we saw happen last night. But yeah, I think you're both really nailing it. I just feel that when you're facing someone that's really well-rounded like Poirier, he's going to punch, he's going to kick. And like Jake pointed out, he was kicking the leg of McGregor in the first meeting that they had. Look, if you don't use your leg, you're going to lose your leg. So, you know, you've got to get kicking as well with your hands, especially if you're, you know, putting your hopes on knocking someone out with your hands, which clearly we can see McGregor wanted to do. And again, Jake's absolutely right. You've got to use those legs a little bit to disguise your hands. When you keep coming in with hands all the time against someone that can equally strike pretty damn well like Poirier can, you're going to start getting into the pocket fights. And And the pocket fighting means that there's going to be a lot more transactions of strikes on both parts. And of course, up comes the risk of getting clipped and caught. I think when he uses those awkward hook kicks, and also he's got a really good teep that we've been seeing in Conor McGregor use in fights, which keeps them out at range, for which he's got that laser precise cross left hand of his. I think that would have been a whole lot better to just keep someone slightly more on the outside, but he overemphasized on the hands, and I think ultimately is undoing. But one thing I always maintain of my dislikes in Conor McGregor's style is the fact that he doesn't seem to have any real knowledge of blocking. Now, he's got great movement with his feet. He's got head movement as and when it's important to do so. But when you rely on that alone, when one fouls, you're relying on one thing. And when his footwork failed him and he was up against the fence, he only has the head evasion. But he didn't do enough forearm and elbow blocking. His hands are sort of wayward. To me, there's always three types of defense that need to be played when you're under pressure. Your footwork, which is your whole body mass location, obviously depicting the range to stay out of trouble. When you're getting outmatched with the footwork, you then use your head evasion. But while you're using your head evasion, just in case those shots do get through, you should also always have your hands on your forehead to cover the shots if they do slip through. And if you're blocking in the right type of way, it also gives you your counter shots. Because the last thing you want to do is be just bobbing, weaving your head, trying to be a swinging, punching kick bag where the shots are always coming at you and not unable to give your shots back. I just think he's a great giver in the striking art, but not a great receiver. And every time that you see him fall apart, it's been because a little bit of physicality comes involved, where he looks a tiny bit tired, where he can't keep pushing for the attack. And when he has to receive, he seems to get tight and tense and under pressure. And he's a muscular guy at that weight, and I just think it exhausts him, and he starts to fall apart very, very quickly. But he's probably one of the best attackers in the game, but he's one of the worst receivers.
I wanted to ask you both, but Dan, first for you, like with those leg kicks, he didn't start checking them until the start of the first round, start of the second round, sorry. And even when he did try and check them, he wasn't really turning his leg into it, so they were still hitting that small bit of muscle on your leg rather than the bone. And I don't know whether that is, I don't want to say lazy, but like you saying about his defense maybe not being his strongest aspect, but like he wasn't quite turning that leg all the way out, and I think that probably contributed to the damage he's.
I
his
agree.
Leg was clearly compromised, like.
Yeah, it was getting compromised, and it had gone into other rounds that would have definitely become a clear target for Poirier to work on, to possibly put the fight to bed that way. But yeah, you're right. His leg was becoming a target because his stance is both wide and long. It really is unusually wide, but that's why he's got so much power in his hands, because he has such good solid base. But the consequence of that is that you can be countered to the leg, and that's why when he was trying to shin block it, he was unable to do a thing called cut the kick. When I say cut the kick, if you watch the way a Thai boxer does his striking and he gets kicked to the leg, he'll be leaning more on his back leg than the front, and they stay light with the front kick, and it's further back, so they can actually cut in the kick low down on the leg when they go to kick you. Because he was so wide, he has to lean back, because it was so elongated and wide. He has to lean back to lift up the leg, and that's not going to help you be able to cut the kick when it comes in. So yeah, it was not defending him from the leg kick and any consequence for the kick. When you shin block someone and try and cut the kick, it has to hurt the person who's kicking. He wasn't able to do that. It was always hurting him. But this is why I say he should have perhaps been throwing more kicks of his own to the leg, and more body kicks, more head kicks. I think he should have just been more of the old McGregor. I think he's got lost and sold into the boxing a little bit too much. Maybe because he's already beat Poirier with the hands, it naturally started to hunt for that. And I had it with one of my students, Richard Mearns. He won a fight with a lovely head kick, and then his next fight that he lost and he got himself knocked out was because he kept throwing head kicks. You start falling into confidence on one thing, and you limit yourself. It's like someone who attacks you with a knife. They attack you with just the knife in their right hand, when really you've got multiple weapons. You've got your left side, you've got your kicks if there was more of a round of fight. But when people get a dangerous weapon or they've expressed a dangerous weapon, they get sold on it and they start hunting for it. Man, you win a fight because your opponent makes a mistake and you find a way to get to that winning scenario. But you don't say, I'm going to win with a left cross and then hunt for it. It's just not going to present itself very often to you.
Yeah, I guess if you keep going looking for something, it becomes obvious and you're trying too hard to get it.
No, you have to be dynamic. And
Jake,
yeah,
as a fighter, like obviously, as I mentioned, I'm not a fighter in any way, so I'm genuinely kind of interested. But is Conor's stance so wide? Like this was my impression, at least, was the reason his stance is so wide is because he throws those high kicks and those hook kicks and stuff like that. So is it kind of weird that he still got that stance but wasn't throwing the kicks? Would I be right in saying that, or not necessarily?
Well, yeah, I don't know. Like his stance was like he was like wide stance, but then leaning more over his front leg and not as agile, not as elusive with his feet, with his footwork or anything like that. Like I don't know, like for instance, Wonderboy, he's got like a wide stance and he's bouncing on his feet type of style. That style you can kick his legs as well, but McGregor's always had a stance where you could kick in and hurt his legs because he's that wide, elusive stance. But he didn't even have that stance. He had like a wide leg stance, but then like a boxing oriented guard, and he didn't have his same, sort of style. And then obviously you weren't mixing up the kicks as often and stuff like that. So like, what made you?
Sorry, do you feel that he almost lost that traditional style? That karate style almost that he had about him that made him so hard to read. Do you feel like he lost that a little bit and he sort of like went into more of a traditional striker's format? Yeah,
well, what made him so successful, in my opinion, is you never knew what he was going to do. As in, Conor McGregor's going to come and strike you, but you didn't know if he was going to left head kick you or if he was going to spinning hook kick you or if he was going to teep kick you in the body or if he was going to left hand or if he was going to jab. You didn't know what he was going to do, you know what I mean? But realistically in that fight, it looked like more he was focusing on just punching, really. Play for a bad kick here and there. After really he got hurt with the kicks, he started kicking him in the leg. He started trying to kick him in the head a bit more. But, he was... And the stance was off as well. Like I feel like he was in a more boxing orientated stance with his guard and stuff like that. But I feel like his old style, the 2016 Conor, the one he looked. Then when I watched the Poirier fight today, and then I rewatched the first Poirier fight, and as soon as it come on, I was like, oh, this looks better. It looks better, you know what I mean? It's just like it looks. Yeah, I know Poirier's improved, and that could be a reason why he lost. But I was like, straight away, I was like, within 5 seconds, I thought, that looks better. He looks better here. You know what I mean? He looked better there. Looked more loose, more agile, more, obviously the kicks made him more flat-footed and this and that. But he was already a bit like that anyway.
But if we just all rein ourselves in, you've got to admit though the hands that he landed. But if you look it back, I mean, my goodness, this guy's got some precision on him. I mean, it's just he was landing so often on Poirier, but Poirier's all time and time again proved how tough he is and how he can take a punch. Okay, I know he's been knocked out by McGregor before, but he was getting hit on the tip of the chin, and he took them and received them. But to commend McGregor, I mean, nearly every time he was throwing out his hands, they was practically landing every single time. I don't know whether I was more impressed with the precision of his shots or the fact that Poirier just took them and had no concern.
He was known Poirier. He was known Poirier at one stage for like getting wobbled in every fight, weren't he? When he was a featherweight, he'd just be normal. He'd get wobbled every fight. And he was getting put down on a regular, they'd been knocked out a few times. And, obviously, since the move up to lightweight, I think he's only been stopped once. I think Michael Johnson stopped him at lightweight. But apart from that, like he's shown a solid chin in here. So obviously, weight cuts that just prove something to you.
Yeah.
Poirier said in his post-match thing that in I think he said it was the first round that with the right hand from Conor really hurt him, but Conor didn't follow it up and pour it on, and he was quite surprised by that, which kind of again goes right back into what you were just saying, Jake, about him not being like his usual self. Because if you think back to any McGregor victory, the second he nails one good shot and it wobbles his opponent, he finishes them because he goes in for the kill straight away, pouring it on. So it's interesting that Poirier said he got caught and he was expecting the end of the fight. He literally said, I thought he was going to follow it up and that was going to be the end, but it never came. So I found that quite interesting, you know, as a almost, I don't know how to explain it, like, but the fact that Poirier fought for a split second, that was it.
It was going to be over.
But the pressure never came. Yeah, it's an interesting one. In terms of going forward for McGregor, you know, the one thing, you say what you like about Conor McGregor, some of the stuff he said and done outside of the cage. One of my favourite things about Conor McGregor is every time he loses with class. And like I said this to someone yesterday, and they said, "Oh well, when he lost to Khabib, he was fighting in the cage." And I said, "Well, no, actually, the post-match stuff with Khabib is he actually just defended himself when some guy smacked him, like the other guys and whatever. That's whatever. But Conor McGregor himself, like he just defended himself when some guy jumped the cage and smacked him. But in terms of how he behaves when he loses, in terms of his opponent, no matter what's gone on or been said in the build up to the fight, he always loses with class. And you know, he was the same again. He gave all the credit in the world to Dustin Poirier. He didn't make excuses. To be honest with you, like I think we talked about this before, Dan. I would like to see him focus just on MMA. I don't want to really see him go back into boxing and stuff like that. I want to see him focus on MMA, and I'd like to see him get some super fights. Let's have that Diaz fight. Maybe let's have the Poirier trilogy fight at some point down the road. Maybe a Tony Ferguson fight down the road. Chandler, people like, you know, there's some great fights out there stylistically.
Yeah, Ferguson's a good. Now he's had his hiccups and McGregor's had his now. I think that would be a great matchup because it's still someone legit to beat, nevertheless. And you know, it's going to be the end of either of their careers when they have that fight. So that fight's not only going to be an interesting matchup, but equally it's going to be a pressure fight as well because they're both going to have to keep themselves relevant by getting a good, emphatic win over each other. So I think that'd be a really good fight. Both super unpredictable when they're on form. That'd be fantastic little matchup, I think. Let's
be honest, though. Like, it would not be a surprise if in, like, 18 months' time we're talking about Conor McGregor being on a five win streak and... You know,
could happen. You can never write him off.
He's that sort of guy, isn't he? Where he like I think Dana White said after in his press conference, just said, "Look, I haven't spoken to Conor, but he said I almost feel like, you know, he's got all the money in the world. He can walk away. He doesn't need to do this. He does it because he loves it. I almost feel like he can either walk. He's either going to walk away, or he's just going to come back better than ever and be really, really motivated. You just don't know. Like." It is what it is, I guess. Right, okay, Jake Hadley, thank you very much for joining us, mate. Really, really appreciate you giving us your time and answering our questions and stuff like that. And you're
mate.
Welcome back anytime, mate. Anytime whatsoever.
Been brilliant. Like I say, I've been dying to sort of have a chit chat with you, but we saved it for the podcast and. Yeah, I kind of hijacked it a little bit at the beginning there. I wanted to ask all my questions, but I really enjoyed chatting with you. And I have no doubts we're going to have more talks in the future, not just with the podcast, but also together in a gym somewhere, whether it's yours or mine or a combination of both. But good luck for your future, Jake. I'll be watching with interest.
Yeah, man. Thanks for that, guys. And I'll speak to you guys soon. Yeah, nice one.
Yeah. Awesome.
Cheers, buddy.
What a nice lad. We've really been spoilt with these young young, mature. I want to say kids because I'm at the age where I look at them, they look like kids to me.
They feel like kids to us,
but
But
yeah, but don't conduct themselves like so. I mean, absolutely full of intelligence and great head on his shoulders. Really exciting times for him coming up, I'm sure.
Yeah, it's like you say, mate. We've been very lucky. We've been treated to some
We have
phenomenal guests, and that's not stopping, mate. We got another one next week. From across the ponds next week, which would be very interesting. Someone you know well, obviously. But I'm looking forward to that one. So let's finish off this card because there's still some very interesting and some controversial. I thought there was a terrible bit of refereeing at one point in one of the women's matches, but we'll get to that. So we we'll keep going backwards. So Jessica I faced Scottish lady Joanne Caldewood, and I thought Jojo Caldewood was very impressive in this fight.
She was really good. I was impressed with both, though, to be honest with you. I liked what Jessica I was doing in the clinch, clearly improved her wrestling. Not meaning, to get the takedown, just overall cage work was very impressive. But I think the only reason why she didn't shine as much as I know she potentially could was because of the way Joanna Calderwood conducted her strategy. She was both effective in the clinch, close range, long range. The thing I liked was she constantly attacked the leg and the body. She struck well off the break. She was always working something, never in a big flurry. There was no big lull in the pace for her. She just kept chipping, and it began to pay dividends for her. Really impressive performance. Really loved her tie clinch, her knees. It was great. I really just hope she carries on doing that same type of striking format where she's attacking literally on all three levels, attacking the legs, attacking the body, and attacking the head. And also, more importantly, how good she looked at striking and getting the advantage on the break. She was very, very good. Still a close fight, in much of it. Jessica I was absolutely relevant at all times in the fight. Began to really gasp, but I like the way she tried to switch up her strategy and really dive in at the legs to try to get Joanna down to the ground to try to pinch back those rounds, but it just wasn't to be for her. Absolute warriors, so it really was. I think there's only one little bit that was a little bit cheeky, but it just happened in the moment. Calderwood did grab at her hair right in the latter part in that last round. There was a little bit of a hair grab in it, but overall that wasn't consequential to the victory.
No.
Yeah, what's next for Calderwood? I mean,
I think
she's moving on up.
They'll match her back up with Shevchenko again. I do.
Probably so, and deservingly so at that.
Yeah, I think she deserves that now. I think the time's right. I think she's a better fighter than she was last time around. I was just gonna have a quick look. Yeah, I think it's time, to be honest with you. Like, I know. So Joanne's 8th or 7th. Sorry, Jessica I was 6th. So Joanne's going to go up at least one, probably a couple of places. I wonder who they. There's a couple of other names they could possibly match her up against. But to me, I think she beats the majority of them. I suppose you could do the rematch between her and Maia, because obviously Jennifer Maia beat her via submission back in August of last year. You could do that rematch, I guess. I mean, they want fresh opponents for Shevchenko, ultimately, don't they? I suppose a lot will depend if they're going to do that Shevchenko versus Nunes rematch.
Yeah,
if they're going to do that.
I hope they don't, to be honest.
Then, I think if they're going to run that back now, then Calderwood's they're probably going to rematch her against Jennifer Maia, because that makes sense, to do that. But I would like to see... was it Shevchenko versus Nunes? Yeah, it was, wasn't it?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, don't get me wrong, I want to see that fight at some point. I just think not yet. I just think there's work to be done in the division that Valentina's in.
I'm just having a look. So Shevchenko beat Jennifer Maia last time out. She beat Chikagian. It's been a while since she beat Jessica Ai. She beat Joanna Jędrzejczyk. So does Shevchenko not? I thought Shevchenko fought. Right, so Shevchenko fought Nunes back in 2017. Did not think it was that long ago. Jesus.
Yeah, that's crazy. Yeah, I wouldn't have thought it was that long ago.
Wow.
It's kind of 4 years.
I thought Shevchenko fought Caldewood like a while ago, but so the first Shevchenko Nunes fight was 2016. Jesus, we're getting old, mate. To tell you, Jesus,
isn't it?
So they could do that. I thought Shevchenko had fought Caldewood before. Well, I was wrong. So yeah, I'd be interested in what they do. I guess it makes sense to do Caldewood versus Jennifer Maia first, perhaps. But then they're not going to do Jennifer Maia versus Shevchenko again yet because she's just lost to her. So do you see what I mean? Like, it almost makes sense to do Jojo Caldewood versus Shevchenko. But we'll see. Next up then, we had Andrew Sanchez versus Mahmoud Muradov. With Muradov picking up the victory via TKO. 2 minutes 59 of the third round. What did you make of this one?
Yeah, Sanchez's striking abilities come on leaps and bounds. He's actually really good coming forward. Muradov, as we know, is a really good striker. He is very, very confident and got good cardio as well. But he got tested in, all of his striking abilities and all of his cardio capabilities. He got tested in all of that with Sanchez. Sanchez just started to wane a little bit. I think he come out in that round 3 just looking a little bit more tired, and he was just getting hurt a little bit more. I think he actually got hurt towards the latter part of that second round, wasn't it? And then that third round was when things really started to sort of crumble for him. But that Muradov he's proving a real difficult customer for people to deal with. He doesn't do anything super beautiful in any way, nothing hugely standing out, but he seems to be always doing enough. He seems to just squeeze the fight out of people. But I just don't want to take anything away from Sanchez. Sanchez actually impressed me here with his performance, and he was getting his leg attacked, wasn't he, in the early part? And I thought that was going to become an issue for him. But Muradov, I think because he was getting pressured himself by Sanchez so much, just couldn't get target in that leg again so freely as he did right at the start. I think Sanchez was coming forward with that crosshand too much, too hard, too often for him to settle to throw that leg kick to make it a consequence from the early onset. So, yeah, both of them done really, really good things. Muradov now, I mean, where's he ranked now? He must be pretty high up. Is he breaking through to the higher ranks now? I'd like to see where he's positioned, because he's pretty tall at the weight. He's certainly rangy, and he's just got that style that's going to be difficult for anyone to deal with, because trying to get hold of him when he punches and kicks so long, that's not an easy entrance to try and take the guy down either. Yeah, they're middleweights.
Not in the welterweights.
186.
No, neither one in the rankings.
Really? Jeez, that's scary, isn't it? When you think they're fighting
there.
like that. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, that was,
That goes to show you how stacked these divisions are when you got talent like that and they're not even breaking into the top 15. Ooh, scary.
Oh, yes, very scary. It's a good fight. I thought Sanchez looked good to a point, and then that second round, I think, just took it out of him a bit. Yeah,
the latter part, I think he got hurt in, didn't he? And got followed up with a hurt in the round 3.
The finish, though, when he does that flying knee, really was beautiful to see from Muradov.
Absolutely.
Just caught him right on the bridge of the nose. Then he followed it up with another knee right up under the armpit. And he just too much. But I thought both guys fought a real good fight. Okay, and then we had Marina Rodriguez versus Amanda Ribas. Oh my God, mate! Dan Hardy went off on social media about this winner. About the
was that on the that was on the prelims, right? I must have. Oh no, was it? Hang on.
Marina, it's on the main card. It was the fight before Sanchez
and
Muradov. It was,
that's
I think
right.
it
Yeah,
was
yeah.
the one with the weird finish.
That's right. Yeah.
Dan
Yeah,
Hardy
that's
was
right.
not happy.
Yeah, she dominated the first round, didn't she? She got the takedown, and was looking like she could. Normally, when you see takedown in the first round, you're never going to probably see the takedowns in the other rounds, if they controlled the pace, and she did control the pace in that first round. I'm just trying to figure out how did it go in that second round before. Because what was it that made? Oh yeah, that was right. Yeah, this is where Herb Dean sort of like ran in and got too close, and he connected with them, and they thought that the fight had finished. But she was, really, really wobbled. But I'm going to defend Herb Dean here, because if you actually look it back, and I kept looking this back, to see what had gone on. Herb Dean didn't put his hands on them. He just got too close and connected.
Yeah, he just stood
he
close
was
to him,
rushing in, and I don't think he was expecting.
I think he lost his balance. If you watch it, just as he goes around to have a look.
Yeah, I'm watching it back now.
His head to have a look, and he just is one. I think it's his left foot. Just kind of not overbalances like to fall. Just just slight overbalance. So he almost leant over over them without touching them.
Yeah.
So they thought that he was leaning in to stop it.
Yeah. I'm just watching it. I think it's literally because you expect, when the ref touches you, you expect it to be over. But I mean, look, you got to make sure the ref really steps in. It ain't just a touch. The ref's got to step in and get in between you.
Yeah, well, they normally drag them off, don't they?
Yeah, and the referees do give you a rundown in the back room of how he's going to stop it, what he's going to say to you to indicate that he's getting close to stopping it, and so on and so forth. They really do give you the rundown and make it dead clear. If Herb Dean was going to stop it, he would have really intervened, particularly with that incident where she was not in a position to.
Yeah, he just kind of loses his balance a little bit, I think.
Yeah, so I don't think Herb Dean really made a mistake here, other than perhaps get so close he fell over him almost. But
did it have an effect on the result?
No. I think the fight was going to be done no matter what, and it was a great stoppage thereafter. That, but everyone's entitled to their opinion. But
stoppages when people are still on their feet like that.
That was not a decisive stop. The girl presumed it was over. It wasn't that she was carrying on looking for a takedown and trying to connect to try to limit the strike. So you carry on till the ref steps in, literally.
And that's when he does stop it. Like, you don't see many stoppages where the fight is still standing.
No, I think you're seeing it more so now than ever before. But I'm looking back at the slow replays. She's grabbing at her legs. I mean, she should never have stopped fighting until the ref steps in.
Kept grabbing her leg, shouldn't she?
Yeah, that was a misunderstanding. Yeah, misunderstanding of the fighter that was in control, and that's how I saw it.
Yeah, I'll have a quick look at.
But to get back on point. Yeah, but to get back on point, what a great performance! Really looked good with her striking. She's got the height, she's got the range, and now she's getting those credentials for the striking and getting that skill set in. Looks super dangerous.
Yeah, interestingly, I just looking then. Dan Hardy, in his preview of the Conor McGregor fight, said that Dustin Poirier should target the Conor McGregor's legs.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I definitely think that's a target. He's got power in his hands. When someone's got power in their hands, you target the legs, so it takes away their base. It's much harder for them to move in range and therefore also move out of range. It's a two-sided sword when you damage someone's legs. Suddenly the attacks become few and far between. They become obvious because you're hampered with your stance and your footwork, and likewise you're hampered on the retraction when you're trying to avoid being hit. It immobilizes you.
I saw Herb Dean seems to have got a bit of grief on social media. Not as like heavy abusive grief.
Sure.
Just like come on, like a bit like that. It wasn't like when Dan Hardy and Paul Felder were screaming for that stop the fight before, when that was really him and Felder were like, they were really unhappy, weren't they? I forget what fight it was, but so that was the main card. Did you watch any of the prelim fights, mate?
Let me just
So what do
reflect
we had,
back. No, I don't think I did. But what I did do, which is something I wanted to talk about, I did look back at Mason Jones' fight.
Okay, so we'll finish on that, mate. What did you make of it?
Yeah, wow.
I told you it was good, didn't I?
Probably the most impressive fight you've ever seen from someone making their debut in UFC. What an absolute impressive performance. That could have literally gone either or way. You could have quite easily have given that to Mason Jones. One of the toughest, hardest men ever. You can get tough men because they're on the receiving end of punishment and keep going, are just stubborn to not quit. And then you've got those that are dishing it out and receiving it at the same time, but you don't perter them. They just keep coming forward. Really, really impressive test of character, and the cardio of both of them. Athletically, Mike Davis is in the absolute peak of physical form. The power he had on his hands, his kicks, it got great technique as well. But he even made Mike Davis look a little bedraggled at times, look gasping for air. But even when Mike Davis was looking tired, he was still really dangerous with his striking, really, really dangerous with those knees, jumping knees. I'm very, very impressed with his performance as well. But, I don't want to take away the limelight from Mason Jones, as he's our very own over here in UK, fighting out of Wales. Wow, what a competitor. I mean, excuse me, if you wasn't a fan before, you will be after watching that performance. But he fights like that all the time. It's just that we've seen him do it now at the higher end of the world-class scene. And, boy, this guy, no one's going to want to fight with Mason Jones. It's not going to be a comfortable fight. No, whether you win, lose or draw, it's going to be a horrendous experience. Tough dude, man.
It's going to be real interesting what they match him up with next. Because I thought he won. I got to be honest.
Yeah. You can absolutely give it to him. You really, really could. I think the only reason it went against him was because he was choosing the constant pouring approach, and Mike Davis was just doing the things that catch the eye, which was those big knees, jumping knees, big slapping body kicks, and when he was cracking his shots in, they were fully wound, and he's ripping the shoulders. And the things that Mike Davis were doing were visual, not because they were flamboyant, but because he was done with such power. They were making that sound, that impact impression. And don't get me wrong, Mason Jones was throwing some hard shots at all times, but they were always done because his work rate was so hard. So maybe it took away a little bit from the impact of the shots that was landing. And believe you me, Mason Jones was landing plenty of his own strikes. But it's such a shame. He so easily in my mind could still be unbeaten. But look, I hope that he takes
the pressure off, though, doesn't it?
Yeah, it can do, and I hope he sees the positive in this performance and he moves forward. He's only going to become a better fighter from it.
He's so humble, mate. He could have been really angry,
of course,
he felt
absolutely
robbed, and maybe things didn't go his way, and he lost his unbeaten record. It was his UFC debut, but he's just so positive and so humble. Yeah, really impressive the way he took it.
When you think, we've had Mason Jones on here, we're lucky enough to have him on, and I'm sure we'll have him on again in the future. But just a nice, good kid. What a nice lad. And to think that someone that comes across such a pleasant chap can go ahead and throw down like that. That's scary. You would never think it of him. Never think it of him. But one of the most gutsiest performances I've ever seen, regards especially being a debut in the UFC. Great performance.
Impressive. Very impressive. And I look forward to getting Mason on soon once he's recovered, just to see, get his point of view on everything. Very, very quickly then, prediction for next week. At the moment, we've only got the main event announced, so I'll only ask you about that. Alistair Overeem versus Alexander Volkov.
That's interesting. Volkov's got such good, explosive striking, but I'm going to go Overeem. He's really... I don't know how long he's going to be fighting for now. He's really very much showing the twilight years of his career, but he's still managing to find performances and shine. I do think he's more well-rounded And because he's more well-rounded, to me, he's got more ways to win. And so I'm going to say over him.
Yeah, I think I do think Overeem will probably win, but just for the sake of competition, I'll go with Alexander Volkov. And that's us made slightly longer than normal, but I think that was expected when we had the champ, and we were talking about the former champs fight.
Yeah,
Conor McGregor always gives you a lot to talk about, and a massive thank you to Jake Hadley, the Cage Warriors World Champion, for joining us. He didn't disappoint with some great conversation. I always make a little list of clips which I want to make and for later promotion and just to put out on social media and stuff. It's the longest list I've ever had of clips that I want to put out. So that tells you everything. Jake was phenomenal, whether it was his input into fights or just his honest opinions on whether it was Luke or the EFC or the UFC. Everything. I was captivated from everything he said, I got to say.
Yeah. No, he conducted himself very, very well tonight, and it was great chatting with him.
Guys, thank you very much for joining us. We'll be back next Wednesday for an all-new Danny Batten Fight Show with an all-new guest from the world of fighting, and it is another cracker, another belter. Spread the words, tell your friends, tell people in your gyms, your fight colleagues, coaches, tell them all. We've changed the layout slightly, so rather than it just being pure review all the way through and then like bits and pieces, we're going with kind of interview stroke chat with the guest for the first portion, and then we talk about the results of the UFC or Cage Warriors or Bellator, whatever it may be, from the night before. Makes for an all-round better flow, I think. But indeed, we'll be back next Wednesday. Join us. Spread the word.
Defending champion, welcome, Danny Batten.
You're listening to A.C.E Podcast Nation, the hottest new podcast network and YouTube channel in the UK, featuring original series, top guests, expert analysts, and more. Check out facebook.com/AceCast Nation for news on latest guests and shows. Watch every show in full at youtube.com/ACE Podcast Nation.